Today on Locked On Canadiens, is Cole Caufield going to score 50 goals this year?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the last episode of the year 2024. Welcome to episode 1214 of Locked On Canadiens. We want to thank everyone for making us your first listen of the day. You've been with us all year. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. My name is Laura Sab, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, who was fighting a cold but would not miss this episode for the world because he loves you listeners just that much. How are you doing, Ian?
I feel a lot better than I sound. You'll probably hear my voice is now leaning towards baritone, but not quite there. But no, I feel good. I mean,
You're rallying.
We're rallying. The Canadiens' effort has inspired me. I will say, if they were playing terrible hockey, I'd be like, Laura, you can take this one. I'll see you in 2025. But they're playing well. Like, things are good right now. It's fun to be a Montreal Canadiens fan again, which never happens in late December ever, as we talked about last episode. It's been 15 years since they swept that Florida trip, so things are good.
It's been really good. And speaking of things that are unlikely to happen, or, the Canadiens kind of defeating the odds, we're going to talk a little bit about this week. The Canadiens have another pretty tough week coming up. We're going to talk a little bit later about Cole Caufield, whether he can hit the 50-goal mark this season or, anytime in his career. And then we're going to make up some Habs resolutions for 2025 and include some for ourselves as fans as well. That's later on. And do not forget the trivia. Ian has promised me a wonderful, was it a hilarious trivia question you said?
Yes, I don't even know how to really put it. So you have to stick into the end of this episode because It is one of the funnier questions that I think I've found in a long time.
Plus, you do need the answer to yesterday's trivia question. One of our longtime supporters actually got it. I was very excited for him. All right, let's get into the weekly forecast. The Vegas Golden Knights are up next. That is the last game the Montreal Canadiens are going to play in 2024. We really hope that they end it on a high note, given that they've been able to defeat odds in the last couple of weeks. I'm not too pessimistic about this, but I also want to be realistic. Ian, you've got everything queued up for this week's slate of Habs games.
Yeah, let's jump in with that Vegas game. First of all, it's it seems like the trap game of all trap games for the Canadiens to play the afternoon of New Year's Eve in Vegas and then be able to go and spend Vegas with their families New Year's Eve in Vegas with their families. So that's going to be a tough one to get through, honestly. The one right before the holidays is always really tough for the Canadiens. They always struggle with that one, but I think this one might present its own unique challenges. Given
also, it's noon local time.
Yeah, it's such a weird game, and I think part of it's because the Winter Classic is being played on New Year's Eve this year, so the NHL kind of wants that to be an island game, the only game that's being played at the time that it's being played at, which is at like 5 p.m. Eastern. So Canadiens have to get in and out of Vegas pretty quickly. Vegas this year, currently first in their division and tied for first in the NHL, 25-8-3 for 53 points. They're coming off of a 3-0 win over the Calgary Flames. Currently, they are fifth in the league in goals for with 128 and sixth in goals against with 98. So a very stingy team, but also a very offensively talented team. Great power play operating at just over 25%. Penalty kill just about league average at 81%. Looking at their scorers, Jack Eichel continues to light the lamp, 48 points in 36 games. 30 points and 31 from Ivan Barbashev, 30 and 35 from Shea Theodore, a defenseman. So very good season from him. 30 points in 22 games from Mark Stone, who obviously deals with some kind of health issue just about every year. It's become kind of a meme that he's going to end up on LTIR at some point, but I believe he is playing. So he will be something that the Canadiens have to deal with. What are you looking at in this game against Vegas?
Do not be embarrassing. Do not undo all the good work you did over the last couple of years. Honestly, I want to see a steady defense. I think that's going to be the key to this game, is if the defense is able to be remotely competent I think the Canadiens have a chance. Give the goaltender a chance, assuming it's going to be Samuel Montembeault, given what a big ticket game it is. I don't know that they want to repeat the, put the rookie against one of the juggernauts of the NHL scenario. Really, really tight defense. I want mobile. I want bold. I want calm. I want steady. That's what I want from the defense, and the offense is going to flow from there. We've had good things to say about all the lines, all the forward lines in the last little while, right? Especially last week, last episode we talked about the second line heating up. So if the defense does its job, then the goalie and the forwards will work themselves out, right? And the Canadiens will have a shot at winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the two games in Florida have kind of changed my expectations for this game against Vegas, and maybe it shouldn't have, and maybe that's on me, but I think that the goal here should be to repeat the performances you saw in Florida. Those are the new standard now. Those were two of their best, if not their best, games of the year. That's your standard from now on. You need to play that game, more often than not. Canadiens are 8-4 in December, so very, very good month for the Montreal Canadiens. This is their last game of December. They can go 9-4 in a month, which is kind of, if you told me that a couple weeks ago, I would have thought that was nuts. Last year, Vegas won both games, a 5-6 regulation win and a 3-2 shootout win. So very close games last year. Montreal did play Vegas earlier this year. It was not particularly close in Montreal, so hopefully they can erase that. My point, as always, is to protect the puck. You cannot afford to give teams like Vegas the puck for free.
It was a really nice way to say that it was, it did not go so well.
Yeah, I mean,
I was gonna say, they basically got skated out of their own building.
Yeah, and that definitely happened a lot earlier on this season. That can't happen. Even if you lose this game, if you lose it and it's an honest loss, you tip your cap. They're the best team in the league right now. That's if the Canadiens somehow manage to go into Vegas and take that game, we're singing a completely different tune heading into 25. All right, speaking of heading into 25, the first game of the new year is this upcoming Friday in Chicago against the Blackhawks. Chicago is not good. They are 8th in the Central Division, 12-23-2 thus far this season. They have fired their coach, Luke Richardson, former Montreal Canadiens assistant coach. Things are not going well. They are 29th in the league in goals for at 93, 26th in goals against at 123. Power play is decent, above league average, 22.34%. Penalty kill is actually really good too. So special teams are taking care of themselves for Chicago. What seems to be the issue is their 5-on-5 play. Connor Bedard, 32 points in 37 games. It's sort of funny how, we threw around the generational tag with Connor Bedard, and I think he's going to be very good. But I'm starting to wonder if maybe that McDavid type hype was a bit too much for him. I'm wondering if that was a mistake at the time he was picked. I don't know if that's
a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure. I also I don't understand why they fired their coach in a season that they were expected to be terrible, and the only reason Columbus is expected to be worse is for obvious reasons, right?
Right.
I don't understand what happened there, right? Because it seemed from day one the reason they hired Luke Richardson was to carry them through 2 to 3 awful years. I don't understand how anybody's expecting them to be anything other than bottom of the barrel. So that which is not to say the Canadiens should take them lightly in that split, because I know it's a back-to-back. I do expect them to play Dobish at that point, which will be fun. And to me, the key to that game is literally just contain Connor Bedard, because I don't think that otherwise there's too much of a, the Canadiens are, their penalty kill has been decent. Their defense has been decent. Their offense as of late has been clicking. So, they need to play the game that they've been playing in the last little while, and they need to contain Connor Bedard.
Yeah, you're bang on. It's Connor Bedard's at 32 points. The next closest is Teuvo Teravainen at 24. So, it's that is what I think the matchup is going to be. Protect the puck as always, and I would add just beat them at 5-on-5. Your special teams are going to be an issue. Try to beat them at 5-on-5. Last game of the week, the second half of that back-to-back in Colorado for their lone game in Colorado against the Avalanche this year. They actually beat the Avs both times last year, a 2-1 win and a 4-3 win. The Avs are currently third in the Central Division, 22-15-0 for 44 points. Your leading scorer there, no there should be no doubt about this. It's Nathan MacKinnon, 46 points, or 60 points, I should say, 46 assists. Both of those lead the league currently in 37 games played. Mikko Rantanen's also having a fantastic season so far, 53 points, as is Cale Makar. They're a murderer's row of a team. So look, I mean, we can go through the stats, we can go through this matchup. They're playing. They've played 6 goalies this year. They finally have seemed to figure out their goaltending with Mackenzie Blackwood signing that 5-year extension,
which is too much and too long, by the way.
I think so too, but like they have to keep them, right? Like that's a mistake they have to make.
They don't really have much of a choice. They are not immune to playing terribly. They are a phenomenal team. Nathan MacKinnon is having a revelation of a year, like somebody you've come to expect to be one of the top players in the league, who is truly just lighting it up. And he's the guy everyone's talking about this year. He's definitely having a great year. I'm excited, honestly, for Lane Hutson to play against Cale Makar,
Yes.
just so that he can pick up some pointers on just how to better himself. Like that's really it. Like, I'm not saying I'm expecting Cale Makar out of Lane Hutson. I'm saying he should be looking to emulate Cale Makar and learn from him. So even if the Canadiens lose, if he challenges himself, if he learns some lessons from that, like, I would be really, really happy in that game.
Yeah, same. I think that, like, to me, the key to that game is I'm just really excited to watch those guys play against each other, right? Like, to watch those two. And then the following week, I think Quinn Hughes is hurt, so unfortunately we won't see him against the Vancouver Canucks. But that's the sort of matchup I'd be looking for, right? It's like, I want to see how Lane Hutson compares himself to these guys who he is going to be their contemporaries rather soon, if he isn't already. So exactly. Very excited for that. Protect the puck as always. I'm going to have that tattooed on my forehead by the end of the season.
Speaking of contemporaries, etc., there's a bunch of Canadiens with a bunch of milestones that we wanted them to hit this season. We're going to check in on that. We're going to talk about whether or not Cole Caufield can score 50 and how he could possibly do that. And that's coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. First, I want to talk to you about saving money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, I've been trying to save money. That's obviously my resolution for 2025, as it is every year. And one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, so it is time, obviously, the end of the year, for people to do like year in review type stuff, but also to look ahead to the year ahead. We are going to talk a little bit about resolutions we want for the Montreal Canadiens. That's in our last segment, along with our trivia. But in this segment, I kind of want to talk about whether or not Cole Caufield can hit 50 goals this season. The Montreal Canadiens have played 36 games, which means there are 46 games left in the season. And for Cole Caufield to hit that milestone, he needs to score 32 in 46.
It seems difficult for him to do that, but I am not going to be someone who bets against Cole Caufield to do anything. It seems like, people of his stature get bet against their entire lives, and they make a lot of people look very stupid. Cole Caufield, chief among them, right? Like, there's that very, very famous video of the Flyers fan base celebrating the draft, thinking they were drafting Cole Caufield, and they picked Cam York, who is a great player in his own right, but he's not Cole Caufield. I think what's become, at least to me, the most interesting part of this conversation isn't whether or not I think he can do it. with the resurgence and the re-entrance of Patrick Laine into this lineup, it sort of becomes how he can do it that becomes a far more interesting conversation for me, because the power play isn't going to be his bread and butter anymore. It can't be, as long as Patrick Laine is in that spot. And that's not to say that he's taking goals away from Cole Caufield, but he's taking away a prime spot that Caufield gets them from. So to you, like, where do you think he gets them from if he is going to reach that 50 goal plateau? Like, how is he finding his offense, without that power play, the Ovechkin office on the power play?
It's going to come down to the rest of the team. And the reason that I say that is we talked yesterday about how the second line is finally finding its footing, heating up. Kirby Dach seems to be relaxing a little bit. Patrick Laine, his brain is very fast right now, but his body's starting to keep up. And so you're talking about that. We already know that the bottom six has been good. We already know that a lot of the offense this year has come from the bottom six. So what Marty has to do is he has to be able to roll those lines. And in order for him to be able to roll those lines, it comes down to the defense as well, right? They can't be hemmed in their own zone. So if everyone else on the team does their part to the best of their ability, and we don't see games where by the third period everyone's given up and gone home. We don't see games where they squander leads. We don't see games, well, they don't hold leads a lot to begin with. We don't see games where they're hemmed in their own zone for 7 minutes at a time. We don't see those games. Automatically, like, opponents have to now account for more than just that first line. It's still going to be tough. They're still going to be having the tough assignments. They're probably going to be starting a lot of the time. I know Marty's been playing around a little bit with that Jake Evans line, but still.
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to see that the team as a whole, if it performs, Marty's going to be able to roll those lines, which means that there are going to be matchups that are favorable to Cole Caufield, and I think that's where most of the scoring is coming from. And it means that the Canadiens have to be on track. And this is a thing, like things like this, it's not reliant on just one player, right? It's got to be everyone else as well. And at the same time, if this happens, I also have faith that Nick Suzuki, right now he's at just under a point per game pace. I'm hoping that he can still hit that 90 point mark, because with Cole Caufield scoring all those goals, somebody's going to have to be assisting on them, right?
Yeah. I think that's all, if Caufield is to hit 50 goals, all of those things you talked about happen, right? I think the other thing that probably happens is he finds a lot of his offense in transition. He finds a lot of his offense on the rush. That's how he scored against Tampa. A great feed from Juraj Slafkovsky to find him streaking into the middle of the ice with a guy all over him. And there was another play like that in actually, that was the Florida game. In the Tampa game, there was another play like that where there was a 2-on-1 with Caufield and Suzuki. Everybody on planet Earth knew Suzuki was trying to get that puck to Caufield. There was a guy in the way. And I think the thought I remember having was the only thing crazier than Suzuki attempting that pass was the fact that the pass actually got to Cole Caufield. Like, that's the kind of play that's going to find its way to Cole Caufield more often than not. They're going to keep looking for him, especially in those situations where they're in transition and they might have, a one-up on the defense that are, backtracking to make a play. So I'm looking for him to score on the rush a lot. I'm looking for him to score on breakaways. He doesn't get a ton of those, but the Canadiens over the last few games have been getting more and more of those. They've been creating a lot of issues in the neutral zone for teams both at even strength and on the penalty kill as well. Jake Evans, has scored in 5 straight games to this point. So I think it's doable for Cole Caufield. He needs to get hot, right? Goal scorers, everyone says, oh, that's a streaky goal scorer. They all are. They're all streaky, all of them. There's like Austin Matthews is the only one in the league who will go like 3 or less games between goals. He's the only one. Everyone else, like, you have moments where it seems like every puck you shoot goes in the net, and there are moments where it seems like you'll never score another goal ever again. We've kind of hit both of those with Cole Caufield this month, it seems like. So, it's I will never bet against that guy. He seems healthy. He seems like he's developing another edge to his game that he hasn't had in the past. And he's going to have to get creative. And I think that's going to make him a better player overall, which is great news for not only Cole Caufield, but the Montreal Canadiens as a whole, who are still in search of more regular scoring up and down their lineup.
Absolutely. And I just calculated that Nick Suzuki in order to hit 90 points this season, has to be playing at a 1.2 point per game pace for the rest of the season. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I think it's going to go hand in hand with Cole Caufield and also Juraj Slafkovsky. Let's talk about him for a second. Like, we want him to score more than 20 goals this season. He's only got 4 goals in 33 games. Yes, he has been injured. So he's going to have to pick it back up too. So like both of these guys, I need them to like kind of like Buey, Nick Suzuki stats too.
Yeah.
I have a lot writing on the fact that like Ottawa Senators fans will be really annoyed if Nick Suzuki hits 90 points.
Yeah, why don't the Senators as a team worry about hitting 90 points? That's what they should be worried about is trying to make the playoffs, not whether or not Nick Suzuki scores any points. Weird.
All right. So one more thing that I do want to point out as well is Lane Hutson, 26 points in 36 games. I do think that, more of the people talking about the league, other than the Montreal market, need to be talking about this. And that's going to be one resolution. We've got more for the Habs, the media, us as fans, and that's all coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. All right. As this is the last day of 2024, I do want to thank all of our listeners for bearing with us this season. It's been a rough little while for Canadiens fans. We're in the heat of a rebuild right now. There's a lot going on this show. I lost a very cherished co-host, but then I'm now working with an amazing co-host. I'm really enjoying it. So like for me, this has been the second half of this year has been amazing. And I just wanted to thank all of our listeners. And I know, Ian, you have a few words for them as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very weird to be here still. I think I've tried to make myself at home on this show. Some episodes it's easier than others. But it's still very odd to me that I get to do this every day. It still hasn't really sunk in that this is something that I get to do and that people actually listen to it, which is, for some idiot from Connecticut talking about a Canadian hockey team, like it just seems very bizarre that that's something I get to do. So very thankful for all of you guys every day, tuning in and, being a very lively community. I look forward to seeing, our regular faces in the comments or on Blue Sky. We've sort of built a bit of a community with you guys and, hoping for another strong year ahead of us. It's the first, this is the first full calendar year that I'm going into as a co-host of the show. So I'm hoping to continue the momentum that Laura and my predecessor, Scott, had going into this. So thank you.
And part of that is also the Montreal Canadiens need to be carrying us through that because it's so much more fun to talk about them when there's things going on, whether they're drafting Ivan Demidov or, they're trading for Patrick Laine or, look at all the things that have happened. Like just before you joined us and like since you joined us that it's phenomenal. Like we've had injuries, we've had comebacks, we've had, a Tampa sweep a Florida sweep. We've had a lot of stuff. So we wanted to kind of take this last segment of the season and talk about some resolutions that we think the Montreal Canadiens should have. I think the number one thing that I want to talk about, and I know what one of yours is going to be, but the number one thing that I want to talk about is please stop playing hockey in your own zone. Please get out of your zone sometimes. Please play in the offensive zone or even, I'll take neutral ice sometimes. I cannot watch an entire 2025 of the Canadiens being hemmed in their own zone for long stretches, for most of the game, for more minutes than not. I can't take that anymore. So the resolution for the team as a whole needs to be get out of your own zone.
And I think that's something they have drastically improved on this season alone, right? I mean, we're talking about how we were. When was the last time someone called for Stefan Robida to be fired? Like that's
it's been a while.
It's been a minute, right? Because they're figuring out the defensive structure. They're figuring out that system to an actually very good degree. I think also just Alex Carrier stepping in and being exactly what that defense core needed has been so helpful. And that's a feather in Kent Hughes' cap and Jeff Gorton as well for recognizing a player that they knew could help them and not hesitating to make that move. Mine is always going to be to protect the puck as a team, right? Just the more you have the puck on your stick, the more that means guys like Lane Hutson have the puck and are creating, or Cole Caufield has the puck and is creating. So, you cannot afford to give the other team the puck as much as they were earlier this season. And it's something they have drastically improved on. There was that one stretch of games where they were like over 20 giveaways a game. And, that was they threw up on themselves era of the Montreal Canadiens this year. And they've by and large fixed that to a certain degree. There's still obviously some mistakes here and there. Guys occasionally make bad plays. That's going to happen to every hockey player in this league. Every hockey player on the planet is going to make a mistake. So, it's just a matter of, can you limit them and can you capitalize on the other team's mistakes, right? Like the Florida game, I thought was a perfect example of that. Like Montreal did not give them much and they took advantage of the things that Florida made mistakes on.
I think one thing that I do want to do is suggest to Marty that for his New Year's resolution, he should occasionally use his timeout to settle the Canadiens after they allow too many goals.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thankfully it hasn't happened in a while. But coaches have like a very one-track mind with that timeout, which is I'm going to call a timeout to either rest my guys late in the game or draw up a play late in a game. And like, in order for those plays to work, like everything needs to go perfectly. It's not always a very smart use of that timeout. I've felt
the return on your investment is not great.
it's like next to zero, and especially like in the past, especially like last year, when it was Burrows drawing up the play, and I hate your dunk on the guy, but like it was always him drawing up the play and it never worked. And the one time it did work, they wasn't supposed to be the play that he called up. They said afterwards, like, no, we did something different and it worked. So that's not great. One resolution I have that is player focused, and I think we talked about milestones. I think this is in play. Lane Hutson becoming the all-time rookie point scoring defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens.
How far are we,
The current leader is Chris Chelios with 64. I think that is well within play for Lane Hutson. It's going to be a stretch. It's going to be tough. He's going to have to, put together a lot of stretches of like multi-point games to do it. But I think that's well within play. And I would also, for what it's worth, that would tie him with Guy Lafleur as well, with 64 points as a rookie. So that would be really
less
cool.
Than I thought. He needs 38 points.
I think he can do that. I think that's well within play for him. Which would be crazy that we're talking about this, and we would finally have, I forget the user on Twitter, their name is Miso. They always post this thing of like every time we find something fun about Canadiens rookies or like young players on the Canadiens, it's always like Hall of Famer, Alex Galchenyuk, Hall of Famer. And now we'll actually have like another player to put in that category.
Hall of Famer, Lane Hutson.
Yeah. Also Hall of Famer. I'm calling it now. We're getting out ahead of that early. No, but I think like that's well within play for him, and it would be really fun. If this team fizzles out and doesn't stay in the mix and doesn't go to the playoffs, like that's gonna be something that we're watching late in the season. Can Lane Hutson set the rookie defenseman point record for the Montreal Canadiens? Like that's something to tip your cap to. Something to really look forward to this season. So that for me, Lane Hutson, go get that done. That would be really cool.
Speaking of Lane Hutson, I would like media outside of Montreal to notice him. Whenever they talk about like the top rookies, he never comes up. Like he literally had more points than any of them at one point, and like nobody was talking about him. We talk about him in Montreal. Sometimes the national broadcast picks it up, but like other people need to be noticing Lane Hutson. One for Habs fans. I think we really need to stop being so dramatic about Mike Matheson.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, we've kind of hitched our wagon to that guy to a certain extent. And I think what I mentioned last time or a couple episodes ago, I think is still entirely true. You can tell the night Mike Matheson is going to have from like his first two shifts.
Yes.
Like against Tampa, I was like, he's great. He looks fine. Everything looks great. And he didn't really do bad Mike Matheson stuff that game. He was fine.
Yeah, 100%.
But you're totally right. Everyone got to chill on Mike Matheson. He's not going anywhere. Everybody relax.
Yeah. We need to stop trading him. Like that's and then like one that I have for Jake Evans is please just sign back here wherever you go, whatever the Canadiens get for you. I hope it's a haul. Just come back.
Yeah, I think that I still think that trading him and then re-signing him was like the most likely scenario to play out. And And I would love to see it. It's a homegrown guy, right? Like they drafted him, they brought him up through the American League. He's developed into a really excellent bottom six forward. Like it would kind of suck to just see that like walk out the door, right?
Yeah.
Phil Deneau-esque, right? But maybe not to that degree.
I think it's a different front office, so I feel like he's gonna get paid. I hope the Canadiens are the ones to pay him. He's still young enough to be part of this core.
Yeah.
You're gonna do that, and then you're gonna go out when they're contending and have like a worse bottom six center, right? Like you don't want to do that. I also do kind of understand that there's people waiting in the wings, but like let's calm down a little bit on that because like Jake Evans is very, very useful. All right, do you have any other resolutions, Ian?
Just one that we're gonna keep doing trivia this year. So
Yes.
let's move on to trivia.
Let's do trivia.
All right, yesterday's question. Before they won in Florida on the weekend, Montreal's last win in Florida was on December 28th, 2018. Who scored the game winner? And I will give it to Jacques Facepunch on YouTube, who had the answer. It is Arturi Lehkonen, assisted by Andrew Shaw and Brett Kulak. So Arturi Lehkonen, who we actually mentioned during the show yesterday, and then he ends up in the trivia anyway. So Arturi Lehkonen, there's your answer.
Weber.
Yeah,
it was incorrect.
Same era, right?
Yeah.
All right. Today's question, which I've been teasing since the beginning of the show, I find very funny. Two Montreal Canadiens all time are tied for goals scored in regular season games where the Canadiens lost. Who are they? There are two players tied for goals in games where the Canadiens lost. List those two players. If you want to guess the amount of goals too, go ahead. We'll pin whoever gets it right and shout you out on the next episode of the show. So we're looking for two players here who are tied for the most goals in a losing effort for the Montreal Canadiens. Good luck.
All right, you heard the question. You can send us the answer. Actually, I'll give you all of the ways you can find us and follow us. To start, make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Make sure you rate us. Make sure you tell your friends about us so other people can discover us. It's a fun time for the Montreal Canadiens right now. You really want to be on this ride. Really quickly, I do want to remind everyone, have fun, but please do not drink and drive tonight. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you have wonderful festivities. And then you can find us all over social media at Locked On Canadiens. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Blue Sky. Our Gmail is Locked On Canadiens. You can leave comments on YouTube. You'll find me on Twitter, all over social media at The Active Sick. You'll find my co-host at Maybe It's Ian. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next year.